Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. It's Dlamini, and today we're doing another episode of My Experience, a section where we interview learners about their academic journey. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
It's that money making music. Ku-anele zonke indaba umthiyana ngungamene intombi yingozi ghost kuthiwa.
Everybody, today we're joined by the lovely Matema Baloyi, who's a community service physiotherapist at the KwaZulu-Natal province. So hi Matema, how are you?
Hello, Snow. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining today. So just starting off with this interview, I'm sure people who are watching would also like to know, who is Matema Baloyi?
Okay. So I'm Matema Baloyi. I'm from Johannesburg originally, and I'm a graduate from the University of Cape Town. I graduated in the year 2026. So I'm a composite physio, as Snow said. So genuinely, I just love giving back to the community and going all out for my patients. And I love to read in my spare time. I also love going out, and I'm big on public health.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And based on the things that you have just described, I mean, like when you look back into your high school life, like how was your matric year?
My matric year was quite busy. It was very, very, very busy. Every time I think back to matric, I remember all the weekends that I had to go for like maths extra classes. I actually got injured almost like twice that year, so it was quite a hectic year in matric. It was very busy. I think for some couple of weeks I was actually in like a cast, and that was during the time whereby I got to go to a physiotherapist for the first time. It actually happened to be before we actually had to apply for uni. So what had happened was I got injured at school, and I got taken to the hospital. I went to the ER. They checked up on me, and then they just told me, oh, you're going to need to see a physiotherapist once you take the cast off. I was like, what's that? What's that? So then I did go to a physiotherapist once my cast was taken off. I actually went to the hospital, and then they took it off, and then immediately got wheeled in a wheelchair, got to the consulting room, and then I had my first physio session. At first I was like, what's happening? You know, and then that's how I got to engage with the career for the first time actually.
That's very interesting, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that on your matric year, but I guess it was a good thing in a way, since it made you feel closer to physio, and actually you were introduced there to physio. So another thing that I wanted to ask you is that obviously, you know, when you get to grade 9, you're given a choice to do a certain course of subjects. So for you, because there's a certain course of subjects that you need to do in order to even be a candidate for for physiotherapy. So what made you choose this set of list, and how did you choose the list, and what actually was the list that you had to do?
All right. So when I was in grade 9, the high school that I went to in the East Rand, I'm gonna say, should I?
No, you don't need to.
They didn't pay me to advertising. But my school, it happened that the year that we were in grade 9, I don't know what is happening, or if it was like a directive from the Department of Education, but my school then decided to create certain sets. I think they created a combination of 7 different sets that you could pick from, because I felt like, according to them, students had no idea what they wanted to do, or like students used to take like a combination of subjects that they believed did not make sense to them. right? They saw that it doesn't make sense for you to take a certain subject with a certain subject with another one, because like, what are you going to do once you get to like university? So it happened that I loved mathematics. I loved maths when I was in school, and I really liked physics. I really liked accounting, but I had no prospects into going into like the finance side of things. And it happened that the particular set that I would align more with, because I knew that I wanted to be in like in healthcare, right? And I really loved biology. It happened that the set that was gonna tick all those boxes was gonna be the maths core, the accounting, life sciences, and
physical sciences.
And physical sciences, yes. So it was maths core, it was accounting, physics, life sciences, and then obviously like your Afrikaans, your English, and all of that. So that's how I came to pick my subjects, because I knew that I didn't want to do economics, I didn't want to do like history, like I didn't want to do business studies, you know. I just wanted to do those things for fun, like in my spare time, not getting graded for it per se.
So now looking into when you were supposed to go into uni and you finally got there, and just to give people an idea about the requirements. I know there's minimum requirements, but usually I don't like to focus on that. I'd like people to give advice based on their experience when they got to first year and just seeing things like that. So what would you say are the requirements needed to do physiotherapy in UCT?
Okay. So in order to do physiotherapy in UCT, your marks need to be really high. From me personally in matric, I think my lowest mark was 79% or 78%, and the rest were like A's. It's been a minute. I think like my highest was like close to 90 or like a 90, because I got 6 decisions in my matric year. So I would say my biggest advice to anyone wanting to do physiotherapy is make sure that your marks are above 75, because the minimum requirements currently for like your physics, life sciences, your other subjects are 70%, and your languages being your English and your Afrikaans, it needs to be 65. But then just getting that mark on the dot doesn't actually guarantee you a spot, because everybody wants to get to uni and it's competitive. If you think of the number of high schools that are in KZN, and then you think about, oh, there's also high schools in Gauteng and Northwest and the Western Cape, like you think about the bigger picture, that there's the entire of South Africa, and there are people who are applying, you know, and it's not just government schools, it's also private schools, and also people who are being homeschooled, and the perspective of international students too. So I need to just drive that point across, that there's a lot of people that are like applying. So to be on the safe side, just ensure that all your marks are above 75%. And the biggest thing in order to get into physiotherapy would also be your NBTs. Your NBTs are the driving factor. They are so important, because your NBTs and your grade 11 final results are the ones that can give you that conditional offer, you know. So it's important to ensure that even with your NBTs, everything is, for your NBTs, everything is in the intermediate phase. So like your 60 and above, right? Someone once told me something interesting, that universities love these NBTs so much because they kind of like mimic the marks that you actually want to get in uni.
Oh, really?
According to them. That is why they're so adamant and so strict about your NBTs.
Okay, that's very interesting. I definitely did not know that. I
Yeah.
wish I knew it sooner. But yeah, and just to add on, we've been chatting. I think you also told me that for the NPTs now, there's sort of like tutors that you can go to. So just keep that in mind before you even go to write your NPT, because they usually also just take the first attempt, right?
Yeah.
That's the one. You can't write it over and over again, and they'll take the second one, because I think you have like 2-3 years. It's valid for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So just make sure you pay attention to that as well. Okay, so now you in university, you are doing your thing, and so I just want to know what challenges you faced when you were pursuing your degree.
The main challenge that I encountered when I was in university was that obviously I'm from Johannesburg and I found myself living in Cape Town, and South Africa is a very diverse country. Each province has like their own culture going on, like it's very different, although we're in the same country. Like when you go to KZN, you go to Northwest and all of that, it's different. And when I got to UCT, I found that everyone was now so digital, everyone was like on their iPads. Like that was like my first time seeing so many people using iPads and their laptops, because back in high school I just used to be a pen and paper girl. Like I barely even used like digital things. I always wanted to be with like my mind maps, my paper, because I just love to have the feel of paper, and getting to university, that had to like change quickly, because the amount of work that we had did not permit for like me writing the entire time, like writing with my hand in class and all of that, because the workload in university is a lot. So I had to adjust to working smarter and making my life a little bit more easier, because being digital like saves time, for example, lecturers sometimes give you like e-notes before, so I then started to learn the table method, like just taking those bits and pieces of information, putting it in a table. I learned about Anki, I learned about other note-making apps. Some of them I didn't even use, but I had to become more digital once I got to uni, because everything was so fast paced. It was very fast, and it was a lot of work, and there was quizzes, there was tests, it was a lot, deadlines that I had to meet. And I think the most interesting thing was now I used to do life sciences obviously in high school, and then when I got to university, we had to look at cadavers. Like it was no longer it's the picture, you had to be there with the cadaver and actually peel through the layers and understand that it comes from this insertion point and it goes there, like an origin and an insertion, and see how the body like behaves and moves.
We will be linking all the things that you have said in terms of study methods, the apps you've talked about. I'll just ask you more about that, just to link them down in the description so that the viewers, whoever is in uni, can also have access to, and who knows, maybe it might help them with their work. So now you're in 4th year, right? And it gets to a point where you guys are picking your community service placements. So how did you pick your placement?
So it happened that while I was still in university, I started to become more social. I started to be more curious about my lecturers. I started to become more curious about my profession, where I wanted to go, and all of that, and building like a name for myself and all of that. And I got introduced to LinkedIn. So I think already in 3rd year I'd already had a profile, and then it's only in my 4th year when I actually saw a friend of mine making waves on LinkedIn that I was like, okay, This year I'm going to focus on LinkedIn, and I'm going to make connections, and I'm going to use this app. So when the time came for ComServe applications, I didn't go the traditional route. So the traditional route would be, some people normally call the hospitals and request to speak to like maybe the chief that's there to ask about like the capacity of the hospital, the kinds of services that they provide and all of that, and like going on Google. But you find that if you go on Google, there isn't really a lot of information about like our hospitals. So what I did is I went on LinkedIn, then I searched the hospital. I found people who worked at the hospital, and I happened to come across a current ComServe who, no, not a current ComServe then when I was still searching. She was a ComServe at the hospital that I'm currently at right now, and I checked her profile. I saw like the posts that she had been making, and I saw that okay, she's been making some moves, she's been learning quite a few things, you know. Then I found out my information from her via LinkedIn. We connected. We still actually speak to this day. We've now moved from LinkedIn to like WhatsApp, right? So what I then did is that I then searched for the hospital on Google, just to see like what's the hospital's history. Has there been any like history of like any bad things happening and all of that? Because I was intentional about going to a place that's peaceful, not a scandalous place, a place that's like very productive, if I could say the least, you know, like a place whereby I'll be able to apply the things that I learned in uni without the added drama, you know. So that's what I did. And then when I searched the hospital, not a lot had been going on about the hospital itself, right? So then I did that, and then I did not even bother to look for like benefits. I didn't even know about like the accommodations, the like all of them. No, I didn't. As long as I ticked those personal boxes that I had for myself, I picked the hospital according to that.
Okay, that's very interesting to hear, and I don't think a lot of people put thought into doing that when they choose where they would like to go for ComServe. And sometimes I just do want to add on this that sometimes it happens that you don't get your first option or any of the options that you have put. But if you're lucky enough, then it's good for you to take all these measures. I've also learned something new today, just to give advice for people who would want to do ComServe in those years. Okay? So now you're in the hospital, you're working, it's been what, 6 months now? And just to ask, because I'm sure you've been getting your pay slips and all, with the salary, what's the range? How is the salary?
Okay, so I would say in your ComServe year as a physiotherapist, you can expect anything between, I would say, 26K and 31K. Yeah.
It's a good salary. Yeah. Okay, so just to give people an idea as well now, if you'd like to give someone or explain in very layman's terms what is physiotherapy, what would you say to someone?
So I would say physiotherapists are movement specialists, but we go beyond just like movement, you know. We are involved in the biomechanics of the body, which is the way in which the body moves, right? The way in which the body functions, you know. So we are people who rehabilitate, not the drug part. We help people get back to as close as possible to what they were like before whatever medical crisis happened to them. That's just like one aspect, right? So I'm speaking about maybe someone who could have had a stroke, someone who might have just gotten amputated, someone who maybe has gotten debilitating low back pain, someone who suddenly has pain in whatever joint in their body, in whatever muscle. We help to ease that pain, that discomfort through exercise, through modalities that we use, through health education. We also work in the acute setting in terms of your intensive care units, your critical care units, and also in the wards, whereby we help people who have respiratory conditions. Our role is to ensure that we avoid infections from occurring whilst the person is still in the hospital, even if it's outside the hospital. For example, someone that has like a trachea, someone that is on life support and all of that, we basically keep their lungs functioning. We ensure that they still have adequate movement in their body, and that they don't just lay in the hospital bed, especially if someone isn't able to move themselves. We also work in the sporting setting, something that's quite relevant right now. For example, the Comrades Marathon that is taking place this weekend in KZN. We also are the people who are at the forefront with the athletes. For example, there will be like stations whereby there will be physios that will be doing some quick rubs, massages and strapping, just to ensure that if there's like pain, any instability or whatsoever, we sort that out, and that our runners can run the last couple kilometers that they have. So that's where we work. We work with children, we work with adults, we work everywhere. We work in corporate too. So yeah, that's what physiotherapy is. We are movement specialists, and we help people become better, and we try our best to help people become like regain their function as close to what they were before the medical crisis occurred.
Okay, now a very important member of the rehab team, as you've stated, and I've seen that there's a lot that you'll do in the hospitals as well as, in terms of sports, I haven't really given it that much thought that you can be in that space, which gives many opportunities. So just based on what you've said now and knowing what you know now in terms of when you are still a student, when you went to uni, as well as just the first few months you've had as your ComServe here, what opportunities are available for physiotherapists?
Okay, so there are plenty opportunities that lie ahead for physiotherapists. So in terms of opportunities, there's obviously the hospitals, right? There are a lot of opportunities in hospitals for you to get a job there. But then there's also opportunities in some schools, right? Especially schools that have soccer teams, rugby teams, whatever sporting teams that they may have. They sometimes require a on-site physiotherapist to ensure that their teams are taken care of and that they can finish their seasons, right? Recently I found out that there is actually physiotherapy in the mining industry. So there's a physiotherapist who works for a particular mine, right? So she deals with understanding what happens in the mining industry. She deals with helping the mine workers with injuries related to their work as they're underground, the mechanics of that job, like for example, whatever that they're doing underground, like what does it require? Does it require more of the arm, the legs, like what kind of movement is involved in that? she is involved in understanding that and also helping the mine workers with whatever medical crises they may be dealing with at that moment. There is also opportunities in locuming, so that means you're not permanent. You're like employed on a contractual basis, and you work maybe particular days in a month, in a week, or set number of days in a month, and you get paid by the hour. There's also opportunities overseas. Australia really does love to take South African physiotherapists. There's also opportunities in clinics, in old age homes too, because it is quite important for our elderly population to keep moving, right? We don't want them to be seated in that same position, you know, because as you grow older, the more problems, well, health crises that you encounter. So we also work in that field.
Okay, everyone, unfortunately we have reached the end of today's video. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video, and I hope you've learned a lot as much as I've learned today. If you have further questions or anything you'd like to ask, please do drop them down in the comments below, and I would also reach out to Madema and ask her questions that I obviously cannot find answers to. If you like this video, please give it a huge thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and drop a comment if you enjoyed this video with any more questions that you might have. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I do it for the little girl up in Pietermaritzburg, straight from the slums deep down in Mlazi. Bang funa wazi kuthi na uyakwazi zima bala bala ingwe. I'm a real one, make it classy. Mara A1 noma ngene